When I asked the storyteller what is something bringing him joy recently, he said a painting I sent to a gallery a long time ago was accepted to be displayed. So he's an artist and a storyteller. A big round of applause for our first storyteller, Jason. Woo!
Jason, woo!
Go for it.
So I grew up on the high plains of central Wyoming, and the word rural doesn't really do justice to the place where we lived. In 1974, times were tough. So the energy crisis was in full swing, and my father had lost his job working in the oil field. And to cope with this new reality, my mother had come up with this new game for my little brother and I called Bottles. And what the game involved was us loading up our gunny sacks into our old Oldsmobile and heading out onto the Wind River Indian Reservation and then walking along the sides of the roads and collecting cans and bottles that we could later turn in for deposit money. And while we didn't know it, the bottles and cans that we were picking up would be paying for our school clothes later that fall. And our mother hid that from us because that's what mothers do. They protect their children and they hide hard truths from them. So my mom was always interested in teaching and she possessed an artist's soul. So she rarely missed an opportunity to make any boring task into an opportunity to learn. The high prairie in Wyoming in the summer is filled with life. And our little valley was nestled in between two separate spines of the Wind River Mountains and was filled with mule deer and antelope and badgers and skunks and rattlesnakes and all the stuff you would expect to see out in the prairie. It was sagebrush for as far as the eye could see. And then out among the sagebrush, we were always seeing little flashes of colors and moving little organisms out there. And that was the butterflies of all different types and sizes that were out, collecting food for themselves and darting around among the sagebrush. So my mom, she had squirreled away a little money and she'd ordered a collection kit, a butterfly collection kit from the Sears catalog. It took about a month to arrive, and when we received it, we were so excited because it was filled with tweezers, a net, corkboard, cotton balls, and jars of all different sizes. And so we were pumped to try it out. And the next time we loaded up to go out to play the bottle game, my little brother and I got into a mini fight over who got to hold the collection kit along the way. But we got out to the reservation and we had completed the bottles game and loaded up all of our bottles into the trunk. My little brother was screaming because he'd found a beautiful purple butterfly that was down by the fence line. And we went down, my mother grabbed the net and corralled it just like we would one of our calves at branding time. My mother was able to catch it. She got out the big mason jar that had come with the kit and she popped it in the mason jar. And I remember her turning it over in her hands and the sun bouncing off the wings had turned the colors from like dark purple to light blue and then to like this metallic glinting, blue. And it was just amazing. So we took the jar back up to the car, set it on the hood. My mother got out a little brown jar, some cotton balls. She pulled the top off the brown jar and it like instantly we were transported to the dentist office. That was the smell that washed over us, this medicinal smell. She poured a few drops of the liquid from the jar onto the cotton balls, and then she popped them into the jar with the butterfly. And we were watching intently, and the butterfly's wings were moving normally, and then they began to slow down, and then they stopped. And I don't know what we were expecting, but it wasn't that. My little brother, he shook the jar and he was startled, by how loud the sound of the butterfly was as it bounced off the sides of the jar. And I looked up at my mom's face and I could tell that she realized that she had made a mistake and this was not the lesson that she wanted to teach us. So my little brother wouldn't let go of the jar. He had his arms wrapped around it. He sat in the back seat and we drove all the way home and nobody said a word. We were all kind of feeling guilty about what we had done. Later that night, I heard some commotion out by the garage and I looked out the window and I saw my mom rummaging around in the corner of the garage where my father had set up a little spot where we could smash the aluminum cans that we collected. And she took that killing jar put it in a burlap sack, and grabbed one of my father's hammers, and she smashed that thing into a billion pieces. Then she put the collection kit into the bag, and then she put it all in the trash. It was never to be seen again. And I loved her for doing that. In that moment, she taught me it was okay to have a care for the littler things in life, the things that bustle and rustle and tussle. And I've carried that lesson with me throughout the course of my life, and I'm grateful to her for giving it to us. Thank you.